Adam, Tallahassee, the capital city of the state of Florida. I don't know if you know this, Adam. You probably do, thanks to the 5-second challenge. The Tar Heels hadn't had a ton of success through the years against Florida State and in Tallahassee. But, man, another impressive performance from Carolina this Saturday. Now, clearly Florida State is not 1993 Florida State. This is a team that's had a really difficult season. I'm not sure how high the Noles' motivation is at this point in time. And yet, you still got to go do it. We say that a lot. And the Tar Heels went and did it. And, Adam, this was a physical beating by Carolina. I mean, I think Jacoby Criswell threw 3 passes in the second half. Carolina the Tar Heels had the best player on the field, and they were going to keep giving it to him until Florida State stopped it, and they never really did. And that's how Omarion Hampton ends up putting together just an all-time performance, a career-high 32 carries, 172 yards, a career-high 4 rushing touchdowns. Add on top of that 3 catches, career-high 93 yards receiving, and another touchdown there. First Tar Heel since Kelvin Bryant in the early 80s to have 5 or more touchdowns in a game. And, Adam, this was not a mystery on how this was happening. Carolina was going to give it to Hampton, and he was going to pound his way down the field until Florida State did something about it. And I do think we know and previously knew that Omarion Hampton is really good. I think he's the best back in the league. I know there are other good backs in the league as well. I think he's the best. I think he's in the very small group of best backs in the country. We already knew that. But what I was encouraged by, Adam, is I thought Carolina's offensive line was pretty good. And this was a young group. It is a young group. But as we've said a couple of times this year, Mack Brown and the staff really thought this offensive line could be good. They thought it was going to take a little bit, but they thought it could be good. And I think getting that group healthy, getting Randy Clements healthy, the offensive line coach, remember he was in and out a ton over the first month or so of the season. I'm not saying they're the old Washington, like the Hogs or something of the late 80s from the NFL, but I think that group's getting better. You have a really good back behind them. And Carolina just muscled its way past Florida State using that powerful rushing attack all afternoon long.
I think we said before the year that there would be a game or two this year where Carolina had Omarion Hampton and the other team did not, and that would decide the game. I wasn't expecting one of those games to be Florida State.
Yeah.
But it was. And I also think, you have to be encouraged by the physical way that Carolina did it on both sides of the line, because I thought the Carolina defensive line was pretty good because
we'll get to those youngsters.
Well, while Hampton's having an all-time day, so is Bo Atkinson.
Yeah.
So,
you're Bo Atkinson. You just tied Carolina's record for second most sacks in a game. Only Julius Peppers has more sacks in a single game than Bo Atkinson did in this game. And you're pretty clearly the 1B story, not the 1A story. That should just show you what a terrific day Hampton had.
And I appreciated the way Chip Lindsey went like full Madden video game. It was like, oh, they can't stop him? Give him the ball. After one of the scoring drives, you broke the news to Joe Yawk that every play had gone to Hampton. He was like, really? Good. Like, yeah, that's what I would do too. And that's what the Tar Heels did. They couldn't tackle him, and so they kept giving him the ball, and that piled up enough points to win, partially because the defense was playing well enough that you didn't honestly need all those touchdowns, but it was still incredibly fun to watch. And lost in all that, even though Jacoby Criswell did throw only 3 passes in the second half, he really has gotten better.
There's no question. And he's done a really good job on protecting the football. I think for the most part, he's made really smart decisions. He's run at the right times, it feels like. There were a couple plays early in this game where he missed guys. I mean, just open receivers. And actually had the chance to talk to Coach Brown about this after the game. This was at the airport when we landed. And he said, you know what the big difference is? He said, is the iPads. He said, so our coaches can go to the sideline and show him immediately. And so there was one, he tried to get it to J.J. Jones. This was early in the game. Tried to get it to J.J. Jones, and Kobe Paysour was open. Carolina ended up running that play again, I think 2 more times, and both times he got it to Paysour, who was open both times on this particular play. So, I mean, it was that immediate feedback, I think, was a big difference, and it shows credit to Jacoby Criswell for going, oh, okay, yes, I see I missed that. Let me now do the right thing or look for that or whatever. And so, I mean, I said this last week. I think he's in the upper half of the league as far as quarterbacks are concerned. And Adam, the fact that he was the third guy, you see it with Florida State. You said this on Friday. This is not normal. Like, it is not a luxury that most teams have to be on your third guy, and it's this guy. And he's getting better and better and better. He made a couple of throws on the run that you just got reminded about his arm strength on. And he doesn't have to go out there and win it by himself. I don't know if he's at the point of his career, and we saw that a little bit in some games earlier when he was starting, where Carolina felt like he had to go do it, and I'm not sure he's quite there. But when you mix that in with the ability to run it like Carolina can, all of a sudden he looks like a much different quarterback. He's much more settled, and it's allowing him to grow.
Does Mac Brown normally come up to you after the flight lands and say, Jens, I know you're an all-ACC voter.
Yeah.
Now that you've had time to process this game, can you give me a couple key points?
Yeah, what are your bullet points after this one?
Jacoby Criswell.
Yeah.
Coach, talk about it.
Just happened to be walking out with Joe Yock and Coach Brown and Miss Sally and Freddie Kitchens. And so it just got brought up. We were talking about all the positives from the game, and he was one that got brought up, Jacoby.
Well, and there's been plenty of talk about coaching this year, deservedly so. But if you're going to talk about it, I think you also have to talk about the fact that you really can't argue with the fact that a lot of pieces of this team have gotten better. Now,
I agree with that.
Can they sustain that improvement? Like, is this who they are? And is this how they're going to play the final 3 games of the season? Because everyone is well aware of the closing struggles the last couple of years. So that is where the story of this year will be written. But as we sit here right now, this product is better than the product 3, 4, 5 weeks ago in several different areas. And you can attribute that to the players continuing to work hard, but you also have to attribute some of that to coaching and figuring out what they do well and doing that and enabling people to get better.
Adam, you referenced the defense, and it's the second consecutive game where Carolina's defensive line has just been one of the most dominant factors in the game. 7 more sacks. That's 17 sacks in the last 2 games. That's more than Carolina had the whole season. They had 15 sacks through the Georgia Tech game, including 0 against Pitt and Georgia Tech. So they had 15 sacks through Duke, then no sacks for 2 games, and now 17 in the last 2. Rucker and Atkinson have combined for 9.5 of those 17 sacks, those 2 players. So why? Why is this happening? I think there's 2 main reasons. One, we would be incorrect in saying that these are the best 2 offensive lines Carolina's faced. I think Virginia and Florida State both have had offensive line issues. And yet, like I said a minute ago, you still got to go do it. And then 2, I do think Rucker being healthy has helped. Not just the fact that he's out there as far as his individual productivity, but what he frees up for other people. And you're seeing Bo Atkinson was a highly recruited dude. He's played and had moments, but it's a very natural progression now for him. It just feels like he's now kind of matured into a veteran player, and he's not old, but a more veteran guy who's got some snaps under his belt. He's played some. He's kind of learned the ropes, And now he's blossoming into this player, Adam, that is playing as well as anybody on that defensive line for Carolina. He had 3.5 sacks and another tackle for loss where he had gotten in the backfield and stopped a run for a negative yardage play. So he's really playing well, and that defensive front is really playing well. And I do wonder, and again, 3 games left in the regular season, I do wonder if you're seeing some of the fruits of playing those guys fewer snaps earlier in the year, so now they're a little fresher than maybe they would have been in years past. So the fact that you were rotating heavily early, is that allowing them to be fresher now? And you hope that continues through the last couple of weeks of the regular season.
Brian Ives tweeted this a couple days ago. Most sacks by a team this season. Ole Miss leads the country at 42. Boise State has 38. Carolina's got 32. They're third in the country in sacks. They got more than Indiana. Indiana's pretty good.
That's like out of nowhere, too, the sacks.
Well, I'm confident the Tar Heels weren't on this list after the zeros.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, you get 17 in 2 games, it'll put you on some lists. I mean, third in the country with 2 zeros. Like, you know how when you're talking, you've never done this, of course, but some of us have.
Sure.
When you're talking to your kids and say, like, look, if you make a 0 on a test, it's hard to come back from that. You just can't get back to where you need to be. Again, I've never had this discussion. But theoretically,
this is a hypothetical conversation.
If you put up 2 zeros in any stats category, to get onto the national top 3, you got to have some unbelievable performances. Well, that's what Carolina's done. And I get these aren't the greatest offensive lines in the world, but other teams get to play against them too.
That's right.
They're on the schedule. They're in the conference. It's not like you're playing Meredith and Apex.
Yeah.
I mean, these are conference opponents. They're starting ACC offensive linemen, and you're having to sack the quarterback. And the Tar Heels are, and it's made the defense so much better. And now, Florida State's offense is bad. I don't understand how they are that bad.
It is. That offense is not good.
I don't understand why they have such a total lack of playmaking ability, but they do.
It's not good.
But that's fine as a win. When I look back in 5 years and say, ooh, look, Carolina beat Florida State, I'm going to say that was the Amari and Hampton game. I'm not going to say, oh, well, the Noles didn't have Peter Warrick.
I mean, they had 201 yards, and 85 of them came on one drive where they just hit a couple one-on-one balls. Like, so, and I understand you can't, but they had 120 yards the rest of the game. The rest of the entire game, they had 120 yards. And some of that is they are not good, and some of that is credit to Carolina for making it happen. There was no second straight week where there's just no rushing attack to speak of for the opposition. Carolina has allowed a total of 49 rushing yards in the last 2 games. That's after they gave up 360 against Georgia Tech. That doesn't even make sense. So, just a really impressive kind of workmanlike effort. You know, Adam, it was interesting. Before this game, I was doing my prep, and I was listening to some Florida State stuff, and it was so the message was this: oh, it's been a bad year, but this is winnable game. You're gonna go out and win this game. And Adam, from the very start, remember Carolina got stuffed on the 1 yard line. Tar Heels could have had a bigger lead earlier in this game. This was a one-sided game. One-sided. And the Heels dropped an interception and got stuffed at the goal line in the first quarter. This could have been worse. And it was the second straight week where Carolina has controlled the action. And again, I'm not acting like the Heels have gone and beaten Ohio State and Oregon in the last 2 weeks, but had this version of the Tar Heels played in the month of October, at least 2 of those 4 games go a different way, at least. And so you can't go back and do it, but as Mack Brown said in that locker room after the Virginia win, this is the team that you can be and that he says he has seen all year in practice and can't do anything about what happened before that first open date, but you can be the best team you can be after that open date, and the Heels have been pretty darn good the last 2 weeks.
It's interesting that we're here in the first week of November and we're right back kind of where we thought we'd be in August, where how Carolina finishes will determine how a lot of people feel about this
Absolutely.
season.
Well, look, let's not mince words. The state game is going to be the game that everybody – I mean, Carolina wants to win these next two, of course, against Wake Forest and BC, and those are winnable games for Carolina. They are losable games for Carolina. But there's no question that a large reason why people have been so disappointed, not the only reason, but a large reason why Carolina fans have been so disappointed about the ending of the last few years has been that state game. Fair or not, that's the truth. And so that's a big game in a couple of weeks, but they've got some almost unbelievably, Adam, they've got a couple games that can really dictate what happens to them in the postseason. I mean, Carolina still has the potential to go to a pretty decent postseason opportunity, which I think 3 weeks ago no one would have thought that was the case.
They were off the postseason radar completely. And, I mean, I do think because now we're in this weird second bye week, in between week, you do have to give everybody involved a lot of credit for how they came out of that last bye week, because that could have been devastating. And in many ways, it was devastating because you lost a game in the most unbelievable fashion possible, but much more importantly than that, you lose a teammate. So all that happens on the same day, and do you just curl up and
At the same time almost?
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it, like within 30 minutes of each other.
I mean, I think if everybody involved had just curled up and said, you know what, like this is just not happening this year. Sometimes you just can't do it. I think we all would have said, understandable. But somehow they took that week and they pulled it together and came back and won 2 games on the road. I do kind of wonder if it was helpful to go on the road and just get away.
I think it was.
And just kind of be a team together somewhere else. And it wasn't even like Duke or Wake Forest. It was somewhere away.
Yeah.
I wonder if that might have been helpful. So now you get to come back home, play a team that you could probably beat, and you got things to play for. And 3 or 4 weeks ago, did anybody think that would be the case? I don't think so. But here we are.
So Tar Heels now 5-4, 2-3 in the league. Adam, anything else from this game of note for you? Florida State, man, I'll be interested to see where they go. They're doing big construction on their stadium. You know, Mike Norvell has taken them to the cusp of the playoffs a year ago. He's got a big buyout. I can't imagine you'd make a move there. I wouldn't think, but this has been a bad year. It's their worst record ever in conference play. They've got a lot of money invested in this team, which has not paid off for them. And, of course, you got all the stuff off the field that they're dealing with as a university as far as suing the league and all of that. And so I would say an uncertain future at the moment for the Seminoles.
Just an honor for everyone at Carolina to be in the building with the most sought-after football program in all of college football.
That's right.
And get to soak that in and to get to beat them. I mean, the ratings, I can't wait to see the ratings when they come out later this week.
That's what's really important.
Astronomical.
The ratings.
Step aside, Ohio State, Penn State. The Tar Heels got to play Florida State, and I bet they're just going to smash all the records. So thank you, Seminoles. Thank you for allowing the Tar Heels to come visit you, and also for allowing Amari Hampton to have forever the Amari Hampton game.
Maybe we can get a banner for them that says November 2nd, 2024, Carolina versus Florida State in giant letters, then at the bottom and say runner-up. Tiny letters. They were the runner-up in this game.
Amari Hampton game, second place.
Yeah.